J'étais heureux. J'avais gagné.
I was exhausted. The race had been very difficult. It was hot.
Il faisait très chaud.
During the Grand Prix, I was very thirsty. Physically, I was at the end. But because I had won, I recovered quickly. That is the best medicine, to regain strength. Victory. In the evening, I had fully recovered, and I drove the race again in my mind. I wanted to enjoy my victory once more that way.
Savourer la victoire.
They say that I looked slow at the start, but they don't know what a Grand Prix is.
Il y a tant de choses à faire.
There are so many things you have to do, to think about, and even to learn about in those few hours before the start. For me, the only way to be stronger is to concentrate deeply. I try to remember everything, every small detail of my preparation. You must think of everything in this enormous turmoil at the start. You must not look at all the other people around you. It is wrong to recognize people, except your mechanics perhaps. I run the whole picture in my head. I used to cover the palms of my hand. If I didn't, I would get these terrible blisters that made steering difficult. But I don't do that anymore now. My new car is lighter, easier to handle. Did I clean the visor? It is strange, but something like that can cost you your victory. I perspire a lot during the race. Sometimes I lose more than 3 kilos in just 1.5 hours. I have a tube in my helmet through which I can drink. A tube like that must be fitted carefully so that it doesn't come loose when I turn my head. That happened once to me, and I almost lost the race. In my head, I consider every detail. I go through a final check, and for the umpteenth time, I discuss mechanical details with my chief mechanic, Gérard Ducarouge. And then I inspect the surface. That is important to determine your tactics in the race and to choose your tires. I believe I am the only one who does that.
C'est jamais fini. La moindre erreur de réglage du dernier morceau de miroir peut provoquer une catastrophe. En course, il sera trop tard pour y penser et pour y toucher.
Une participation pour Berger. On le voit donc en Formule 3 également.
During the race, it can be too late. I go through a sort of checklist, like a pilot, except that we have nothing on paper.
Tout doit être inscrit dans notre cerveau.
Everything must be in your head. It's a kind of mental radiographic control. I check if all the buttons are in the right place, if they work or not. After starting the engine and the warming up round, I check everything once more, point after point. The brakes have to be warm when I start. Perhaps some last-minute changes can save fractions of seconds in the race. At the same time, I watch which tires my competitors choose. And all the time I think about the race, the things that can happen. There is so much to think about. Training never stops. You have to know where to brake, what the limits are, and when to hold back. You always reach a point where you say, I must brake now.
la limite au-delà de laquelle on devient fou. Vous devez dire à un moment, stop, j'arrête. Le reste, les autres y penseront pour moi.
And let it go from there on, or have other people thinking those other things for you.
They always think the start of the race is something terrible, that your heart beats like mad, that your brains are about to explode. It is a totally unreal moment. It is like a dream, entering another world. Your spirit goes and the body sets itself free. When you accelerate, there is only one thing that matters: not to fall behind, to storm away, to take the lead. Be first.
Le meilleur moment, c'est l'instant où la lumière rouge s'allume.
Really, the most beautiful moment is the moment when the light turns red, because everything in me is programmed then, and everything is discharged. Bang, bang, bang. The tension, the waiting for hours, minutes, it all disappears. But the euphoria doesn't last long. Immediately you have to think about two things at the same time: what the man in front of you is doing and what the man behind me is doing. Your fuel consumption, your tires, all those details that you must keep an eye on spoil the fun a little. There is so much to think about that there is never time enough or room in your brains to process all the information and to react adequately. And then it gets tiring. At some circuits you don't have to worry about fuel, but then there are other problems. On street circuits, for instance, acceleration is enormous and you reach very high speeds, too high. When you are 2 hours into the race, there is more stress and you are losing concentration. You get tired and thirsty and you feel the tension, the stress and the exhaustion, but you realize that is the price you have to pay to achieve what you want. Victory.
La victoire.
The goal, the objective has been always one. You change the places and...
When I was very young, in Brazil, I drove karts. After that, I came to Europe and drove Formula 3000 and Formula 1. I changed places, categories, and competitors, but I never changed my motivation. I always wanted to win. I always want to be the first, the fastest. It is the best way to thrive in this business, if not the only way. It keeps me going. It is a fantastic challenge.
Because it's a big challenge.
Whenever I feel that is one of those fortunate days when no one can touch me, I call out over my radio in my helmet, "I'm fine, no problem, piece of cake." I think they like to hear that. And then, when I win, when I'm the first to cross the finish line, it is fantastic, overwhelming feeling. The only reason why I drive at all is because I want to win.
La seule raison de piloter, de courir, c'est de l'emporter. Ma vie, c'est la course. Toute ma vie, c'est la victoire.
Come back home and I win the race.
There is nothing better than to win, especially before you go home on holiday. You really enjoy things more. You are more relaxed, and sometimes when I lead in a race, I think of these things. The problem is that I can never leave the Formula One completely behind.
And healthy. So
I must keep in form and in good health I absolutely refuse to do sports in which I could break a leg or an arm. I have to be very careful, which sounds odd perhaps, but okay.
Ce qui est quand même paradoxal, mais c'est comme ça.
Because I'm racing next weekend.
Perhaps it is a professional tic, but I can't do anything without thinking of technical things. Mere speed, or even victory has little meaning to me in itself. It is the feeling of being in charge of all that miraculous technique. That is why it interests me to know that water skis are made of carbonate.
This goes the left side first. This one. First the left. Right? Yeah. Or it's acceleration.
What also interests me is the speed and the skill, the precision, the reflexes and the sharp vision you need whatever you do, whether you're at sea, in the air or on the circuit. They say that the only important thing in my life is speed. It is true that I only have one goal, to win. So having a girlfriend or children is not important just now. I suppose it will happen once. The question is when. I don't know yet. What I do know is that it will happen. For the present, being famous has two sides. It is very pleasant to be able to go into a restaurant without having to reserve a table, even when the place is very busy. On the other hand, when I want to be alone and people won't let me, I am annoyed. As far as I can remember, it always gives me an extra happy feeling to be in the lead in a race, to be the fastest. I could never be just another Formula One driver. I know I am one of the better drivers. Being famous is part of the deal. Important to me is the sensational feeling I have when I am racing, particularly when I win. That is what keeps me going.
Je sais que je fais partie des meilleurs. Mais la notoriété, c'est accessoire. Ce qui compte vraiment à mes yeux, ce sont les sensations que j'éprouve quand je pilote, quand je cours. Et surtout, quand je gagne. C'est ça qui me fait avancer dans la vie.
Can you say why he is so good? Thierry Boutsen. I believe it is because he is a realist. He thinks hard about the things he does, he can achieve full concentration in a race, and he is enormously talented. What is that exactly? Always going fast, without having any problems, without getting off the track, without making mistakes. He made one or two small mistakes at the beginning, but it doesn't happen anymore now. He keeps his car on the road, and he is always up front. Isn't it slightly exaggerated to call him a magician, as some people do? I believe that we are all magicians, because it is a very difficult profession, but he is especially talented. Alain Prost. There is one thing I must say against Senna. That doesn't mean that I don't like him, or that he isn't a super driver, or at least one of the best, currently. But to be absolutely honest, he is always a loner in his team. And professionally, I could never think of him as the best of all. Perhaps one day I will be able to admit that, but not before Senna accepts that he is part of a team that has another driver, just as strong as himself, driving the same car. Gérard Ducarouge. I believe he is an all-round driver. He is a great natural talent, intelligent, with great feeling for the engine and the car as a whole. I believe he has all it takes to become a true world champion, and I hope he will be as a member of our team. I believe it is always nice if others judge you positively, because it can help you. You feel happier, more relaxed. It is a great feeling to know that others support you. It is not racing in itself that gives you the kick, but winning.
Grâce à ce genre d'attitude, vous êtes facilement plus heureux, plus naturel. C'est une grande force de sentir les autres derrière vous.
More natural and probably helps you doing what you're supposed to do.
When I start with them, I didn't have the car, the tires were not flat, square. They were a bit round, so I was going like this, you know.
One more time. To win, you must meet 3 requirements. First of all, you must work hard. Second, you must work hard. And third, you must work hard. People have no idea how hard you have to work to win. They think that training only serves to determine the grid, but training is just the top of the iceberg. Driving a Formula One car is like playing a musical instrument, like rigging a boat. You have to concern yourself with a number of things at the same time, and they are all connected. Think of the angle of the wings of the road holding, the choice of tyres, depending on the surface, the precise degree of turbo pressure, the length of the gears, etc. There is always more. As soon as you think everything is well adjusted, you have to test the car on the circuit. And to test the car, you have to push it to its limits, which is an exhausting business.
Ce n'est jamais fini. Chaque fois qu'un réglage paraît bon, il faut aller le tester sur le circuit. Et pour le tester, il faut pousser la monoplace dans ses derniers retranchements. C'est très vite exténuant.
And when you are finally satisfied, you have to compare your performance to that of your competitors. And very often they are better. And you have to start all over again.
At low rev, 9 to 10 or 10. Yeah, 9 to 10 especially. I don't get the boost.
Yeah. What you said, the engine starts to boost without the boost.
I would.
Nowadays, the battle is not only fought on the circuit amongst the drivers. There is also a major battle going on amongst the car factories in the world. And this battle is all about the application and development of the most advanced of technologies. But in spite of all the computers in the pits, we must still be able to make our own judgments, to analyze them, and to communicate them. This abundance of technology serves only one purpose, to be faster than the others. And in that respect, only one thing is important, the time and pole position in the grid. It is something strange, a medieval fight between opponents who can't see each other, who behave as if they don't know each other, but who spy on each other via numbers that appear on screen. It is another form of training than the race itself. But I like this kind of demanding fight. I try to gain as much information as possible without giving away much myself. When the moment has come, I am off and give everything I have got. I am always prepared to give everything I have got, because what is at stake is pole position. It is the first step on the ladder that leads to success. When I am in the pole position, I already feel that I am going to win.
C'est la première marche de l'escalier qui mène à la victoire absolue. Quand je fais la pole position, j'ai déjà une première sensation de victoire.
And the man who is in pole position is right here. It's Ayrton Senna. You've typically done it in the last moment. How difficult was it?
Well, it's never easy, of course, because when you drive in during a qualifying lap, you drive over the limit.
And then there is another start, with another pole position. And while I am waiting, I think about everything again. Sometimes I simply rely on my intuition, but sometimes I have to use the head a lot more. Just feeling isn't enough. On the whole, you try to strike the right balance between natural feeling and technical knowledge. In that way, you are working hard all the time. You concentrate on that one and only goal, to win. And you realize that success is the only reward you want. And then, of course, there is the tremendous disappointment when victory escapes you, and you end up with only an enormous feeling of frustration. The only justification for driving a Formula One car is the reward of winning.
La seule raison de piloter une Formule 1 en course, c'est de gagner.
To me, it was a very tense event. The atmosphere was bad. There were serious discussions between drivers and the responsible technicians. It happens in every team. It is all about the weakness of the cars. I believe it is desirable and normal.
Je crois que c'est normal, c'est souhaitable, c'est nécessaire.
It's very demotivating. That situation.
Apparently, it is very difficult to admit to yourself that you may not have the means to win, but that you can certainly put up a tremendous fight, even if it isn't all that easy. But of course, if you know that you are driving a good car with a good engine and for a good team, and that you can hold your own in the struggle for victory, then everything is much easier.
You know that race, for any reason.
But when you know from the outset that you don't really stand a chance, or only a very small one, then it is very difficult to feel strong and motivated.
It's the hardest side of my profession, really, because the only reason to drive is to compete.
When I am in trouble, there is no way I can compensate for my feeling of disappointment. Perhaps the only way is to think of the next race, to wait for the next chance, and to work even harder. It's terrible, but really, the only reason why I race is because I want to win. Because winning makes you forget about the difficult part and justifies all your hard work. But I also know that winning just one race is not enough. The important thing is to become the world champion. That is the only real victory in Formula One racing, and one that I will be chasing for the rest of my life.
Parfois même, ça ne sert à rien. Ce qui compte, c'est d'être champion du monde. C'est la seule vraie victoire en Formule 1. Et cette victoire-là, la victoire de ma vie, je cours toujours après. Ça fait 4 ans qu'on me promet la Lune. Mais pour l'instant, je n'en ai que la face cachée.